Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the John Campea podcast here on this glorious Sunday on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I live in Burbank, and Burbank is still currently on fire. If you didn't know about this, look it up on the news. Burbank is on fire. And if every once in a while you hear the really loud sound of helicopters, it's because I have this constant stream of water bomber helicopters flying over my head, going to the mountains beside my house here, dropping water on the fires. So that's what's going on here. Apparently, right now, there's not a lot of homes are in danger or anything like that. But I mean, it's incredible to see at night. Like it's like an apocalypse. It's kind of crazy when you see it. But if you hear those loud helicopters, that's what it is. Hey, so this is what I do here on the John Campea podcast. I'm going to be talking a lot about the world of entertainment, movies, and television, our favorite things. And here's how it's going to run today. I have picked out 6 topics that you guys have sent in to me. How do you get a topic or a question on the John Campea podcast? It's simple. Just make sure you email me anytime at the John Campea podcast at gmail.com. That's the John Campea podcast at gmail.com. Just send on in your questions. I pick 6 out. If you want a sneak peek as to what the topics are, look in the description of this video. I've got the topics written out down there. So, without any further ado, and oh yeah, I get to go see John Williams again tonight. I know. I already saw John Williams in concert the other night, but a buddy of mine had an extra ticket, and I get to go see him again tonight at the Hollywood Bowl, so I'm really happy and excited. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's get to the first question of the day. And the first question today comes to us from Frank Mehrer, who writes, "Big fan of your show, and I was wondering that if they made a new Harry Potter trilogy and Daniel Radcliffe would not return, do you think they would make a CGI Harry Potter like they did with Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One?" Well, thanks a lot for the question, Frank. And this is actually really similar to kind of like a theme of questions that I get every once in a while. It's like, oh, well, they made Michael Douglas look young in that one scene in Ant-Man. Why not get Michael Keaton back to play a young Batman and just CGI his face? It's easy, right? Well, there's a couple things to keep in your mind. Number one, first of all, let's keep this in mind too, that yes, they did Grand Moff Tarkin, and yes, they did a CGI Princess Leia. But remember, while it's the most advanced and most successful like CGI interpretation of a real human character we've probably ever had, for a lot of people, it still freaked them out a little bit. Like it still didn't quite look right. Now, we're getting closer and closer to it looking right. But for a lot of people, it didn't work. Like for me, it worked. I thought it was amazing, but I'm also keeping in mind about how far they've come. Is it perfect technology yet? No, it's still not perfect. It still doesn't quite look right. So there's that. The other thing to keep in mind too here is you're talking about movies that did them for very short, isolated periods of time. That Michael Douglas thing, all they had to do is de-wrinkle him a little bit, but still it was for one scene, just one scene. Whereas mostly just kind of standing and talking. Grand Moff Tarkin was just kind of standing still and talking most of the time. Princess Leia just did a turn. It's, we give us hope, or whatever the line was in Rogue One. So it's very still. That's relatively easier to do. It's a whole nother thing, though, to start talking about, oh, just do a whole movie that way. It's easy. No, it's not. It's not. I used to work in visual effects. I can tell you right now, that's a Herculean task you're asking me to do. An expensive Herculean task that runs the risk of looking all types of wrong, okay? So if they wanted to do another Harry Potter movie, first of all, why wouldn't Daniel Radcliffe want to come back to do it? But let's put that aside. If he didn't want to do it, and you try to do a live action Harry Potter with a Harry Potter, your lead character, being done CGI, it's going to look terrible. It will pull people out completely. But let's then for a second say that, oh, it's 15 years later and they've perfected the technology. Okay. If that were the case, if it was magically 15 years later, could they now do a CGI Daniel Radcliffe if he didn't want to come back and do the movie? The answer to that is absolutely not. Why? Because you're not allowed to use Daniel Radcliffe's image without Daniel Radcliffe's permission. You're not allowed to use it. You can't do a CGI Daniel Radcliffe in Harry Potter and say this is Harry Potter without Daniel Radcliffe giving his permission to do it. And if Daniel Radcliffe was going to give his permission to do it, then he would just be in the damn movie. I suppose if we were magically 15 years in the future and they could perfect CGI characters, Could they CGI or Harry Potter to look like somebody else? Sure, but then why not just get another actor? So, no. As of right now, if they wanted to make another Harry Potter franchise and have Harry Potter and have it look just like Harry Potter's looked in the movies so far, they could not do a CGI because, number one, it's not really possible to do it with enough quality at this point at all. Plus, it would be mega expensive to do and insanely time-consuming to do. Plus, on top of all that, you wouldn't be allowed to use Daniel Radcliffe's image without Daniel Radcliffe's permission. All right, man. Thanks a lot for the question. Appreciate it. Let's move on now to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Lego Darth Batman. And Lego Darth Batman writes, "Hi, John. Love your videos, by the way. Thank you so much, Lego Darth Batman. Do you think that Johnny Depp can revive his career with films like the Fantastic Beasts franchise, Murder on the Orient Express, and The Invisible Man?" Well, thanks a lot for the question, Lego Darth Batman. Johnny Depp is a great talent. I don't think there's anybody, even people who hate most of his movies, will acknowledge Johnny Depp has, at least within him, the talent to be an incredible actor. We've seen him put that talent on display many times before. The problem with Johnny Depp recently, and the reason Johnny Depp's name doesn't carry that cachet, if you will, anymore, is because he's done so much with his career over the past number of years where he plays caricature characters. Oh, look, I'm the Mad Hatter. Oh, look, I'm Captain Jack. Oh, look, I'm this. And oh, look, and he just plays these weird caricature characters. What was that one he just did that he did a couple of years ago with Gwyneth Paltrow when he had the curly mustache? Can't even remember what that one was. I mean, he's done so many caricature characters. And then he was in Into the Woods. He played the Big Bad Wolf. Look, I'm the Big Bad Wolf. Like, he's done so much of that a lot of people have lost their excitement of seeing Johnny Depp on screen. He's still got an incredibly good career. Let's not say, too, that, oh, Johnny Depp needs to revive his career, as if his career's in the gutter. His last movie, that Pirates of the Caribbean movie, made nearly $800 million. Now, was that a great number for a Pirates of the Caribbean movie? No, but it's a movie that made $800 million. How many actors do you think have been in movies that have made $800 million? 0.5% of actors in Hollywood have been in a movie that have made $800 million, okay? So let's not pretend like Johnny Depp's career is on life support of some sort, okay? He's still doing okay. But in talking about getting him back to that relevance, getting him back to that level where when people would talk about the name Johnny Depp, you'd be talking in terms of respect. You'd be talking in terms of, this is one of the great actors today. This is one of the top Hollywood movie stars working today. This is one of the guys you would want to have in your movie. Absolutely. What does it need? I don't think a movie franchise like the Newt Scamander thing. What is the Newt Scamander one called? Oh yeah, Fantastic Beasts. I don't think Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is going to be it. Not that those movies aren't going to be great. I'm just saying that him playing another weird caricature character isn't going to do him any favors. I mean, he can be great in it, and that's wonderful, but it's not going to fix the other problem. That's all I'm saying. He could be fantastic in the next Fantastic Beasts movie. I'm just saying it's yet again another kind of weird, wacky caricature character. Murder on the Orient Express, being directed by Kenneth Branagh, all right? That is another story. Unfortunately, I believe Johnny Depp is playing the murder victim. I believe he's the guy who gets killed. So how much of the movie Johnny Depp's even going to be in, I'm not sure. I don't know if Johnny Depp is going to be in 3/4 of the movie. I don't know if he's going to be in 15 minutes of the movie. I just don't know. Is he going to be in Murder on the Orient Express enough to get back that cachet? I don't know. But being in a movie like that, with a director like Kenneth Branagh, that carries some major, major potential. And look, I'm cheering for Johnny Depp. I mean, I would love to see him be able to get back to where he is, but I'm going to admit, I am one of those people that the name Johnny Depp has lost some of its shine to me because I haven't seen him done some serious dramatic work a lot lately. I mean, he did Black Mass, and I thought he was pretty good in that. I'll give him that. But I'd love to see him do things like Murder on the Orient Express or some other straight up dramas to really see him put his acting chops on display. I would like that a great deal. But again, let's not pretend like his career's on life support. Last film made almost $800 million. All right. Thanks a lot for the question, man. Let's move on now to the next question. And the next question comes to us from Sammy Sosa. And Sammy Sosa writes, "Hey, John, I keep up with your podcasts every day. They're great. Thank you so much, Sammy. Appreciate that. My question is, do you think the upcoming Justice League could have a mid or end credit scene since Joss Whedon is finishing up the film? Also, no offense to the workers involved, but I honestly hate waiting for nothing." Yeah, it's become a thing now. I mean, Marvel didn't create the post-credit scene. Marvel didn't create those. But Marvel have made them feel like they're the standard thing now. I mean, when I'm in any sci-fi or comic book movie, at least half the audience usually sticks around for the credits now, expecting an end credit scene. So while Marvel did not create the end credit scene, Marvel has made them feel like they're the norm. They've made people come to expect post-credit scenes. Do I think they're going to have a post-credit scene in Justice League? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no for a couple of reasons. Reason number one is DC Warner Brothers haven't made a habit out of doing post-credit scenes. So it's not part of their repertoire at this point. It's not been a part of their normal operating procedure to do them, which is fine. You don't need to have a post-credit scene. That's fine. They're always fun if you have them, but there's no skin off our noses as an audience if you don't. It's totally fine if you don't. And so it hasn't been their normal habit to have post-credit scenes. Remember that Green Lantern post-credit scene? How bad was it? That has to be the worst post-credit scene ever in movie history. That Green Lantern one, where it's like, it's got the great actor Mark Strong as Sinestro. I was like, hey, I'm Sinestro. I've been a good guy this whole time. I've got this ring now. Now I'm evil. Like, it was just so bad. Terrible post-credit scene. So reason number one, I'm not expecting them to have a post-credit scene is because it hasn't been their habit so far. Reason number two, I'm not expecting, and I'm saying expecting because they still may do it. They might. I'm saying I'm not expecting it. The second reason I'm not expecting them to have a post-credit scene is because I believe the Warner Brothers brass, when they've been talking about, we want to get Justice League in our rearview mirror. We want to see how it performs. We want to see how the audience responds to it. We want to know where we're at before we make a lot of firm decisions about direction and tone and things like that. They've already got, Aquaman going. They already got the wheels in motion for a bunch of other films. But if Warner Brothers right now is truly waiting to see how Justice League performs and what works in it and what doesn't work in it, then to do a post-credit scene that teases something else coming up seems counterproductive. Aquaman might be an exception to that because they're already making Aquaman. I mean, Aquaman is going to be what Aquaman is going to be. So if they did a post-credit scene, and again, I'm not expecting them to, but if they did a post-credit scene, I 100% would expect it to be an Aquaman post-credit scene to set up the Aquaman movie, because that is in production. That movie's happening no matter if Justice League is the greatest motion picture of all time, or no matter if Justice League ends up winning the next Razzie Award. It doesn't matter. Aquaman is happening, and it's going to be what it's going to be, so you would be safe to do an Aquaman post-credit scene. I guess, maybe, but I still don't expect them to do it at that point. But like you, I'm going to sit in the theater. I'm going to wait till through all the credits to go by to wait to see if there's going to be a post-credit scene. I'm going to stick around and wait to see if there is. All right. Thanks a lot for the question, man. We move on now to the next question. And the next question comes to us from Tyler Eklund, who writes, I just watched the 40th anniversary re-release of Close Encounters of the Third Kind in theaters. I have seen it once before at home, but this is the first in theaters. I'm 25 and I like the movie, but not as much as some people I have heard throughout the years. I have heard that this is considered one of Steven Spielberg's best films. What is your take on it, and why do you think it is so highly regarded? Thanks a lot for the question. Yeah, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, truly one of the most special, one of the most unique films ever made. I don't consider it, personally, one of Spielberg's top 3 or 4. That's a testament to how good Steven Spielberg is. But I don't consider it maybe even in his top 5. But it is a very special, very unique, very trend-setting and groundbreaking film. They did things, and I know a lot of you guys have never seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It was a movie that was so far ahead of its time, as for not visual effects and action, but in terms of themes and ideas, and really getting into it and playing with the notion of what is sci-fi, and mixing and meddling sci-fi with a grounded real world that we all live in. And it's so unique on that level and what it does. And when you start to get into the third act, it's so awe-inspiring at the same time. So, look, I'm with you. I don't necessarily think Close Encounters of the Third Kind is one of Steven Spielberg's top 5. But it is one of those movies that was so far ahead of its time. And when you watch it, you probably can recognize the influence that movie and a lot of things they did in that movie have had on other movies, sci-fi or not, in the generations that have come after it. So, yeah, if you have not seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I highly recommend sit down, look it up in the Google Play Store or Amazon or iTunes or whatever it is you like to use. I don't know if it's on Netflix or not. Check it out, sit down and watch it, treat yourself, and watch it as a student of film. And I think you're really going to be blown away by it. Thanks a lot for the question, Tyler. All right, we move on now to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Jose M. And Jose M writes, given the huge critical acclaim and commercial success of DC's live-action Wonder Woman movie, Marvel is now moving forward with their own version of a female-led superhero movie in Captain Marvel. Do you think that Marvel's first female superhero movie will achieve and possibly replicate a similar level of success that DC had with Wonder Woman? Thanks a lot for the question, Jose. First thing is first. Your question is completely inaccurate. The way you worded, now that DC's had this big success with Wonder Woman, Marvel is now moving forward with their version. No. Marvel announced the Captain Marvel movie long before Wonder Woman ever came out, okay? They even announced the Captain Marvel movie long before Wonder Woman even went into production. I believe Wonder Woman was announced first, but Captain Marvel was announced years ago by Kevin Feige in this event he had in Hollywood years ago. So don't think for a second, I don't know who told you that, but don't think for a second that, oh, now that Wonder Woman's successful, we'll move ahead with Captain. No, this has been in the works for a long time, long before Wonder Woman ever came out, okay? Wonder Woman was announced first, but this has been in motion long before Wonder Woman hit theaters and had its success. So they were moving. Them coming out with the Captain Marvel movie has nothing to do with Wonder Woman whatsoever, okay? So getting that cleared up. Let's move on to the next question. Can it be as successful and replicate the success that Wonder Woman had in theaters? I think there are two answers to that. One is if we're looking at it in terms of quality. Can Marvel make a movie as quality as that Wonder Woman movie, as quality as what Patty Jenkins did with Wonder Woman? Absolutely they can. They've got a terrific pair of directors on the movie that did a great job with that Ryan Reynolds film. Anyway, check that out when you get a chance. So they got wonderful directors. They have a great track record of making really solid, great movies that critics and audiences love. I'd say that the chances are very high that they can make a movie as good quality-wise as Wonder Woman was. I think the chances are very high. However, the second question, though, is different. Can it be as financially successful? Can it make as much money at the box office as that Wonder Woman film did? I have my doubts. And honestly, DC, and I'm a big fan of DC and Warner Brothers, but they better hope it doesn't. Because, look, Captain Marvel's a great character. No, I'm not trying to cast any shade on Captain Marvel as a character at all. But let's look at some of the reality, okay? Most people don't even know who there's a lot of people out there still think Captain Marvel is Shazam. Because Shazam used to be called Captain Marvel a generation ago. He's not called Shazam. He's not called Captain Marvel anymore. Shazam's name is Shazam now, okay? A lot of people have no idea who you're talking about when you say Captain Marvel. Some of them might know who you're talking about if you say Miss Marvel. So she is to most people, a completely unknown character. Wonder Woman, on the other hand, is the icon. Wonder Woman is the top of the top, #1 female superhero of all time. No debate, no questions asked. There is no discussion to be had about that. You pose the question, the most relevant, important, most iconic female superhero of all time. There's no debate to be had. It's Wonder Woman. And it has been Wonder Woman for generations, all right? Captain Marvel, in terms of comic book lifespan, Captain Marvel is a very young comic book character. Like really, if you want to look in the span of history of comic books, Captain Marvel is a relatively young comic book character. And again, that nobody really knows or has ever really heard about outside of comic book followers. And we represent the minority of the movie-going public. So, can a movie like Captain Marvel, on her first outing, be expected to match the reception, the enthusiasm, the excitement, and the success that the cream of the crop, most iconic female superhero of all time character did? I think that's unrealistic to expect that. I don't expect that at all. The real question is, will it be good? And I expect that it will be good. And will it be successful in its own right? Yes, it will be successful in its own right. It'll make $400 million. It'll make $450 million. It might even make $500 million. It'll make money. It'll be successful. Hopefully then, at least Marvel is keeping their fingers crossed, that future installments of Captain Marvel can be made now that the public will know who she is and it'll get more and more successful. But to expect or think a character like Captain Marvel can come out in her first film and come close to the success, excitement, and enthusiasm that the single most important female character of all time, Wonder Woman, has had is, I believe, is completely unrealistic. I mean, look, stranger things have happened. Jurassic World came out and became the #1 opening weekend box office of all time. Nobody saw that coming. So could something strange like that happen with Captain Marvel? Sure, anything could happen. But if I had to put money on it, do not expect it to match the same success that Wonder Woman had. Just look for it to be quality, maybe even as good, maybe even better than Wonder Woman, and look for it to be successful in its own right. But yeah, I wouldn't be holding my breath trying to compare a Captain Marvel's first movie with Wonder Woman's first movie. That's just unrealistic. All right. We move on now to the final question of the day. And the final question today comes to us from Gary Fergusson, who writes, "Greetings from Trinidad and Tobago." Well, greetings to you too. I just recently watched the Star Wars Anti-Cheese edition and was so impressed at what editing out scenes, manipulating audio voiceovers, mixes, etc., and the different changes made to the prequels to make them more watchable. My question: do you think Disney should or would ever do an official re-editing of the prequels? Thanks a lot for the question, Gary. And for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, there was this guy who took the prequels and did his own re-edit of them. And they're called the Anti-Cheese edition. I know there are several re-edits of the prequels out there, but I believe, bar none, the best of them is called the Anti-Cheese edit. And I talked about these about a year or so ago, and what they did was, first of all, he cuts a bunch out of the movie. Like the Phantom Menace now, the Anti-Cheese edit is only about an hour and a half, strict hour and a half. And it's magnificent. Because not only does he cut a lot of stuff out, not only does he rearrange some stuff, but like he also does some things. Here's a great example right off the beginning of the movie. The Nemoidians, right? You know, the race of the Trade Federation, the Asian racist characters. We must move quickly to disrupt all communications down there. Like, it's just head slapping. Anyway, what he does is so creative. The guy takes that and he takes out the audio of the Nemoidians talking, and instead he puts in his own weird alien language, like a like a really deep alien language, and then puts in subtitles and changes some of the dialogue in the subtitle. He doesn't just put up the subtitles, he changes the dialogue as well to make it far less cringy and way more relevant. It actually makes it make sense. And you're like, within the first 5 minutes of watching the Anti-Cheese edit, you realize I am watching a better movie. This is watchable. And it's just incredibly done. So it's difficult. It's a little challenging. You can find them online. It's a little bit challenging because Disney understandably had them pulled down off YouTube, but you can find them. They're out there. I'm not going to put any links because I'm not going to break any laws. I'm just telling you, if you wanted to find the Anti-Cheese edits online, they're not hard to find. You can find them. And I highly encourage you to watch them. I think they're great. I believe they're vast improvements over the prequels. But now let's move on to your question. Do I think Disney, in the light of something like the Anti-Cheese edits, would ever like re-edit The Phantom Menace, or hell, just make the anti-cheese edits the official new prequels. These are the prequels. The anti-cheese edits are now the official edits of the movie, or should they re-edit them themselves, taking some cues from the anti-cheese edit to make some of their own changes? Okay. What I'm going to say might surprise you, but I mean it with all of my heart. Everybody knows I hate the prequels. I hate the prequels. I do. I don't try to discourage anybody else. If you love the prequels, that's awesome. I celebrate that you like them. That's great. All film is subjective. But I don't hide the fact that I hate them. I think they're terrible. That being said, though, they're canon. This may surprise you. Let's do a little bit of an analogy here. If the prequels were a forest, okay? There was a forest, and that forest is the prequels. And Disney was coming along with their bulldozers and dump trucks to tear down the prequel forest. And all the prequel lovers out there ran out and made a human line, a human chain in front of the prequel forest to protect the prequel forest. Guess what? I would join them. I would join them. I would go out hand in hand with them, and I would fight to protect the prequels. Why would I fight to protect the prequels? These films that I hate? Why would I fight to protect them? Because they're canon. And canon means something. More than any other film franchise in the world, even more than Harry Potter. When you dub something as canon, that means it's done. There is no more discussion. It is canon. Those movies are canon. They are the history of Star Wars. They are the actual events of canon. Once Disney put that canon stamp on all the movies and the Clone Wars show and Rebels and on novels that are now coming out, the new novels, when they put their stamp and say, this is canon, that means something, and it has to be permanent. It has to be permanent. I may not like the prequels, but I love Star Wars and I treasure Star Wars, and the prequels, whether I like it or not, are a part of Star Wars. That means off limits. You cannot touch them. You cannot change them. But John, you don't like them. It doesn't matter that I don't like them. They're canon. They are what they are, and they cannot be touched. You know, I often make this analogy, and people get mad at me, but it's a true analogy. You know, I love my family. Star Wars is family to me. And you love your family. But every family has that one cocaine addict Uncle Bruce who's 53 years old, and he still lives, he's your dad's brother, and he still lives in your grandmother's basement. He can't hold down a job. He's the embarrassment of the family. He's addicted to drugs, won't work, won't pull his own weight. But guess what? He's still family. He's still Uncle Bruce. And that's how I know a lot of people don't like that I look at the prequels this way, but I do. That to me is what the prequels are. They're Uncle Bruce. They're a bit of an embarrassment to me, whatever it is. But guess what? He's family. And that means something. That means I may find Uncle Bruce to be a disgrace, but if you get in Uncle Bruce's face, I'm going to break your arms because he's family. I will fight to protect, I know it sounds weird, as a Star Wars fan, I will figuratively fight to protect the prequels to stay the way they are because they have been dubbed as canon, and that means they're family. they're the unemployed, drug-addicted Uncle Bruce living in Grandma's basement family, but they're family, and they should not be touched. That's just my opinion of it anyway. Maybe you have a different opinion. You know what? My mind can be changed. Jump into the comments section below and leave me your thoughts. Well, that'll do it for all the topics today, guys. Hey, guys, listen, something I didn't mention earlier in this video is that I now do this full-time. As many of you know, I left the corporate overlords. I decided to walk away from doing this type of work for corporations. It's not what I wanted to do anymore. And I decided to do it full-time like this, make 70 to 100 videos myself every month. But that means I need some help. And I got a great community on Patreon, Patreon supporters who have signed up. They say, we like this content and we want to support you doing this content. Maybe you can become one of my Patreon supporters. Check out this link. Get all the information about what being a Patreon supporter of me actually means and what it does and how it benefits everybody. And maybe you can become a Patreon supporter. And if not, that's fine too. Anyway, guys, make sure, since you're here, to click the subscribe button, become a subscriber to my YouTube channel. Make sure you follow me on social media. That'll do it for me, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. And until the next video, bye-bye.